17th, 2024 to order. Jeremy, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tedesco. Commissioner Coles.
Present.
Commissioner Britton.
Here.
Commissioner Sewell.
Here.
Alternate Gaida.
Here.
Alternate Salmeri.
Here.
Alternate Ma.
Here.
Alternate Caird.
Here.
Commissioner Chaplinsky.
Here.
Commissioner Walowski.
Here.
Chair Hammersley.
Hammersley's here. We do have a quorum. I did hear from Commissioner Tedesco. He's not going to be able to join us tonight. We'll see Commissioner Gaida in his place tonight. And with that, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. If we could all remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Okay, looking for a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting on September 3rd, 2024. Commissioner Walowski?
So moved,
Would
sir.
that be you? We got a second from Commissioner Britton. All those in favor, or any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Items number 7, Commissioner discussion. Any subcommittee reports? Nothing? All right. Also under item number 7, I am pleased to welcome back Jen Klock, who's going to give us a brief presentation on the plan that she put together in 2026. That's our current plan of conservation and development. As I've been talking over the last couple meetings, we're getting ready to delve into this again as required by state statute. And Jen, the floor, madam, is yours. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me okay? I know this is all being recorded, so I want you to hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back. I've missed some of you.
Not all of us.
I know, I'm just kidding. Okay, so about 10 years ago, about this time 10 years ago, I was asked, obviously a member on planning and zoning, and I was asked to chair the plan of conservation and development. My first thought was, what is that? I didn't know what it was back in at that point it was 2014. My second thought was, well, it's probably just going to be not a big deal, so I'll do it anyway. And the reality of it all is and was that this was a trajectory moment for me and my involvement in town and our community. Because what it is it's a master guiding document. And when done right and when implemented, it creates both the mission and the vision for our town. So I thought wrong. It was pretty darn important, but I'm glad I said yes to the opportunity. So our committee was made up of multiple different people, planning and zoning members, Board of Finance, conservation, town council, and resident. And we met monthly for 1 year, and we hired Planometrics, you know Glenn from the regulation review. And through a series of community meetings and stakeholder feedback sessions, we constructed our guiding document. And the most important piece to this document is that our community, our residents, submitted their feedback, and that's what a lot of it is based off of. Hold on, I don't want to mess this up. Oh. So to start, I just want to read the intro to the Plan of Conservation and Development, which, of course, I'm sure you've all memorized, but I'll read it anyway, because I think it just provides a good guideline to understanding what the document is. Because, again, not a lot of people still know about the document, even though we've been using it to guide our decisions. So, a plan of conservation and development is a document whose purpose is to establish a common vision for the future of a community and then identify policies that will help attain that vision. While its key purpose and function is to address the physical development of the community, it will often address issues related to economic and social development. The goals and recommendations of the plan are intended to reflect an overall consensus of what is considered desirable for Southington and its residents in the future. It is envisioned that the plan will be used to help preserve and protect things important to residents, conservation strategies, guide future growth and change in ways the community wants, development strategies, and identify facilities and services the community wants or needs in the future. A POCD is primarily an advisory document. It is intended to guide local boards and commissions to provide a framework for a consistent decision-making with regard to conservation and development activities in Southington over the next decade or so. So a decade is a long time, 10 years. So I want to just kind of go over what we have accomplished, just the highlights since 2016. And I just also want to stress that the most successful businesses have a vision and a mission, and that's your guide to creating a system of consistency and efficiency. And that is what the POCD is, and that is why we were able to accomplish so many of the action items, because it was the driving vision for our community. So since 2016, I'll just highlight some of the items that we've accomplished in different various sections. So in terms of historical resources, we digitized 3 decades of information to pave the way for future preservation. Prior to this document being published, all of our historical records were in a PDF format, random lists, and we were actually able to get a grant based on our 2016 POCD to fund digitizing those records. And what it did was it created a way for all of our inventory to be documented and tracked, and for future preservation, possibly to be on the historical registry. We have reused historical buildings, breweries, Factory Square, promoted historical attributes. I'll just call out one major attribute that just after 7 years, we installed the Curtis Farms Educational Storyboard at the Curtis Farms Open Space, which was a major initiative. In terms of open space preservation, this was a huge item, something that the community came out, and when we all met, this was a huge issue in 2014, and so this was a focus, and so it guided a lot of our commissions to make it their focus. And over the decade, we made open space preservation a priority, and over 300 acres of open space was preserved. We leveraged development rights to mitigate high-density development, and we also adopted the open space plan. So if you go to the town website, you can see a separate plan adjacent to the POCD, which focuses solely on open space. As far as design, I'll call out our chair, Bob, who created a more natural sign regulation to improve the aesthetics of the town. We encourage developers to make character design a priority. We initiated the downtown and Plantsville revitalization, implemented low-impact development strategies, and also over 900,000 sidewalk grants and ADA transition plan was implemented. Hold on, there's more. In terms of economic development, over the last 10 years, you've seen our grand list grow each year. We guide businesses, you guide businesses in development and industrial development to appropriate locations in town. And we've adopted a greatest and best use ideology. I think you've probably heard that tens of hundreds of probably thousands of times, depending on how long you've served on this board. In terms of residential development, ongoing efforts to preserve the character of our neighborhoods, maintaining a diverse housing stock. I think you can, in the past 10 years, look at what's been approved from apartments to condos to Winchester Estates. That's Southington. We have a very diverse housing stock. It's one of the reasons people look to move to Southington. We created ways to address an aging population. This was another data point that was discovered through our engagement, which was that our population in Southington was projected to age. And how are we going to accommodate that aging population? And one of the ways that we did that was working with stakeholders to create the Arch Zone, which you've definitely encountered in the past 10 years. And in terms of community, we can look at maintenance and construction of some of our new buildings. So the senior center, the library, the Barnes Museum, all of the investments that have been made into our community and into new construction and maintenance of our buildings. We've encouraged developers to make a character design a priority. Again, our downtown and Plantsville revitalization. If you've gone to Plantsville and seen the evolution of how the village as a district is coming, that's all because it was important to our community members to take pride in the character of our town, the history of our town. That's where all that's coming from. And we also updated and maintained our street lighting. So those are just some of the major accomplishments over the past 10 years. And one of the things I want to point out is, and this was one of the action items, was how do we want to brand Southington in the future? And over the past 10 years, our economic development team has branded Southington as a recreation destination. We really have it all. We have skiing, golfing, orchards, breweries, cider houses, restaurants. This is why people want to be in our town. This is why businesses want to come to our town. This is all generated from community feedback, then action, then implementation. So what's left after all that? What is left? Well, some of the things that are left, I mean, again, 10 years, a decade is a long time. Things that were relevant back then may not have been relevant over the years as they passed, or we may have informally worked on some of the items. And since the implementation committee has last met, some of these items might have been addressed, but I just wanted to kind of document them for the next committee, just to take a look at and see, are they still relevant? You know, do we need to focus on these? Maybe ask the focus community questions on these to see if these are still things that need to happen. So in terms of preserving our community assets, some of the things that are outlining are identifying our scenic resources and amending local regulations to consider them as part of land use applications. Investigating, establishing a townwide design review process. This has been something discussed in terms of a committee level, and not really sure if, that's the way we want to go. If necessary, investigate establishing a design review committee to implement design review on a townwide basis. We have a lot of different parts of town, and so, that would be a large undertaking. Considering a regulatory change to allow value-added activities such as farm stores, adopt a right to farm policy, and possibly considering adopting a demolition delay ordinance. In terms of guiding residential development, other things to possibly look at to either strike or move forward with would be guiding multifamily development to locations where they meet the criteria listed in the POCD, review the buffer requirements between businesses or industrial uses to ensure an effective buffer will be in place. Again, I think we already do this, but formally, has it been documented? We can review that. Consider modifying accessory apartment regulations to help meeting the housing needs of our aging population. Consider allowing residential facilities with services in more zoning districts. Consider modifying the accessory apartment regulation to require that such units be deed restricted to rent all at affordable prices. So another hot topic, which I do think will come up, affordable housing, in which we can refer to our affordable housing plan that we have. in terms of protecting our natural resources, identifying scenic resources, and amend local regulations to consider them a part of land use applications, and consider relocating subdivision regulations 317 and 318 to zoning. This was before we totally revamped our regulations, so that might be inaccurate or not relevant. And then finally, enhancing downtown and other places. Queen Street was, again, one of the big topics that came up. I think we've done a good job of this, but I think also it will come up again, and we should look at it. Promoting the appropriate development and redevelopment of Queen Street. And this next one was very costly undertaking, which is likely why it didn't happen in the last 10 years, which was undertake a special study of the Queen Street portion of Route 10 corridor. And then in terms of downtown, using a charrette-type process. A charrette-type process is just basically using the community to get together and prepare a master plan for downtown. Establishing a village district in downtown, seeking ways to provide for public restrooms in downtown, joining the Connecticut Main Street program, establishing a pop-up park during weekends, and just exploring programs and incentives to assist property owners, residential as well as commercial and targeted areas with property maintenance and code compliance and facade improvements. So after all that, and I just want to point out that the entire POCD had almost 200 action items, and we were able to implement about 90% of them over the last 10 years. And I want to go back to my initial introduction where, as a sitting planning and zoning commission member, I had no idea what the POCD was because there was no implementation piece to the prior plan. So that's going to be that was the key of this one. When we set up the whole document, it incorporated an entire implementation piece, and then we set up an implementation committee to make sure what was suggested. We were working with other stakeholders, we were working with other commissions to make sure that these things were happening and that the document wasn't just collecting dust, because our community members and ourselves spent a lot of time and energy creating it. So, what is next? So the next steps for the future. Well, these are the things that I think that our next POCD committee should focus on. What are the issues that Southington is challenged with in the next 10 years? What items do our residents see as a priority? What are Southington's strengths? What are our weaknesses? What opportunities do we have? So sort of a SWOT type approach. And are there any threats that we must critically address? And I just want to end with a quote that kind of reminds me of the POCD, and it's from Sir Richard Branson, and it's, if somebody offers you an opportunity but you're not sure if you can do it, say yes, and then learn how to do it later, because that is what I did here, and it honestly changed my life. So that's all I have on the POCD. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Open it up to commission members for any questions for Jen. Anyone? Okay. I know the value of the POCD. You and I have had regular conversations about it. I always say we're guided by two documents, one legally by the regulations, and then two by the POCD as sort of a guiding document, which I think you touched on as well. I think there's a number of things in there that we can continue to focus in on in the coming couple of years. One thing that I just made a note of, you made mention of a demolition delay ordinance. What would that look like in your opinion? Could you give us some ideas on that? I'm not quite sure what that is.
Well, I think why that came up was at the time, if I remember correctly, the house in front of the YMCA was up for demolition, and the town does not have a delay ordinance. So it was like this huge effort to actually stop the demolition of an extremely historic property. and ultimately they were able to save the property. So I think that's why it came up.
Okay.
Level of importance, today, unsure. And I think that's a huge part of the community being involved, because when we got together in these meetings, people would vote, on a level of 1 to 10. How important is this? How important is that? And if you go into the POCD, which I'm sure you've all read and probably have a copy with you now, that it will list in numbers, the level of importance for each one. And that comes from direct feedback, and that guides you on what to focus on first.
And I think, I like you, when I first got here around 16, I think my second or third meeting, we actually adopted the POCD that you had worked on and put forward with members of the community. I wasn't quite sure of how it worked or what the value was or how it fit into the system. And I think over the last, what has it been for me, like 8 years now, right? I've grown to appreciate the level of work and detail and focus and input that went into that ultimate document that was reported by you and voted on by the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission in 2016. What type of process was used? For example, how many different community meetings did you have during that whole process? Was that guided by the consultant that you were working with, or was that something that was led by yourself as the chairperson of that subcommittee? And what level of community involvement did you receive? Was there a lot of people who showed up and talked about things? I mean, sometimes you only get people when it hits their backyard, and which is somewhat unfortunate but understandable at the same time. But what level of input and involvement did you get from members of the community on the outreach efforts?
Well, we hired Planometrics through an interview process, and so the community involvement schedule was largely dictated or initiated by Planometrics. And there was 3 main, if I can recall, community gatherings, and I thought they were, well attended in the fact that not a lot of people have the time to come out, to meetings. And at that time, it was more in person. So possibly we could leverage, Zoom capabilities now and get, increased attendance. But the first meeting was literally topics, and everyone went around and voted. What's the most important to you? The second and third, I think, were more town hall type gatherings where we discussed, initial thoughts and then, follow-up thoughts and things like that. And then all of our meetings were, as most meetings are, public. And so community members could attend any one of those meetings. So at every point, it was important to have the transparency and the feedback from, our residents, and because this is our town, what do we see for the future of our town? What do we want, what are the issues that we want to create solutions for? So
Yeah, it sort of sets a guiding map, if you will, to what type of things we want to focus in on looking at, and use the word improving to improve our town and the way it is and where we want to be, so to speak, when we grow up, type of stuff. So I do think that by virtue of the work that you had done and all the people that were involved in 2016, that this upcoming effort isn't going to be quite as intense, perhaps. However, in terms of timeline, we're about 18 months away from needing to, or about 24 months away from needing to statutorily approve a new POCD. When is the time to start that process? I kind of think that now is, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
I would say now. We met for a 1-year solid. You feel like, ooh, that sounds like a long time. But even once a month meetings are almost not enough. When you sit and read the amount of topics and subjects and issues and new issues now that you have to tackle, there's a lot of work. And in addition to that, there's an approval process that has to go through other of the boards in town, and that's set on a schedule, and we'll have to find out what the deadlines are. and kind of like back into it, but definitely now.
And ultimately, it comes here for approvals, and we're going to have public hearings and all that type of stuff on it to allow for additional input as sort of a last hurrah, and then ultimately give it a stamp of approval or tweak it if need be. But the committee, I appreciate you going into what your committee composition looked like and who were members of that, although it's open to everybody. And as I tell the people up here, ultimately, all of us are a part of this because we're all going to be voting on it when it comes around in a couple of years. Would you be interested and willing to serve on that committee again?
Yes,
Okay.
I will, absolutely. Like I said, this honestly has been a really important part of my commitment to Southington and my involvement. It's really changed my life and how I look at things, and anything that I can do to make Southington a better place, I'm all in.
Yeah, we got that on the record, folks. Just so you know, right? We're going to hold you to that, Jen.
Okay.
Before I let you go, I'll just open up one more time to members of the commission to see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, Jen, thank you so much for everything you did to lead us to this point, to get that in front of us, to take the time tonight to come out and sort of give us a presentation on where we've been, where we are, and sort of give us some thoughts about where we're going to be going and how to get there. So I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you and hearing from you over the coming years on this. So thank you again, as always. So
Yeah,
appreciate
happy to
it.
be back.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a good night.
Don't be a stranger, as I say. So, all right. So that concludes item number 7 on the agenda. As far as chairman comments, a couple things I just want to mention, and I'm going to read the meeting guidelines and rules, which I typically do at this point. Just internal stuff is that I've been working, as I think I've mentioned in the past, I've been working with our staff to update some of our regulations because there's been a couple things that have changed. One of the things that we've learned is that some of the revisions that we went through a couple years ago in the reformation of the regulations, that some things got dropped off inadvertently, and I think that we just need to get those back in there. And I'll use the example of food trucks, for example, that I think that was inadvertently left out, and staff found that and said, hey, we want to make sure that we go back, and I just thought it was a good plan to do that and sort of take everything all at once. So we're gonna be doing that over the coming months, but heads up to everybody that's coming down the pike. In addition to that, as I've said before with the the POCD subcommittee, Jamie's going to lead that effort up for us. I'll work with Jamie to get a membership group together, but if you're not a part of that formal commission, by all means, especially members up here, don't feel like you don't have the ability to input, you will. Definitely, we're all hands on deck when that comes to that. Same goes to members of the community. I would encourage members to get involved. This is what guides us, and there are certain things, there's a lot of things on tonight's agenda, for example, that actually flow from that POCD. So case in point, here it is in action. By all means, please get involved in it. It is an important process that's set up, and statutorily, we're required by the state of Connecticut to update that every 10 years, so that 10 years is coming up. And although it's 2 years away, it's really not that far away when you think about the administrative process and input that has to go into that. So with that, let me just read this. Good evening and welcome to everybody to tonight's meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Bob Hammersley. I'm the chair of the commission, and I would like to take a few moments to explain the meeting format. Aside from administrative items, most of which we've already gone through, tonight's meeting is comprised of 2 parts, a public hearing and a business meeting. During the public hearing, applicants will present the application to us in detail, which will allow the commission members and the public the opportunity to better understand what's being proposed. Commission members may ask questions during the presentation as needed, and then we'll ask members of the public who support or oppose the application to speak. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by myself. Once recognized, come forward to the podium up here, give us your name and address so we can get that on the record, and give us all your comments directly through me. Everything runs through me just to keep it in an orderly fashion. Do not be advised that this is your opportunity to ask questions and make comments on the application, because once the public hearing is closed, no additional testimony from the public or the applicant will be permitted. It's important to maintain, as I said, decorum and order at all times, and that's why we ask that you just address any questions or comments through myself and not other members of the audience or directly to the applicant. After everyone's had a full opportunity to speak, all questions have been answered, and all information has been received, we'll make a decision up here about whether it's appropriate to close a hearing, and we will consider voting on an application, won't vote on an application until the business part of the meeting. During the business meeting, we deliberate on applications submitted to the commission and decide how to act on them. There's one of four options that we take, and those are to approve an application as submitted, approve it with stipulations, conditions, or modifications, table an application for a future meeting, or in some cases, we may deny an application. 4 affirmative votes of the commission are generally required to approve any applications, because there's 7 members of us, 7 members up here, 4 being a majority. If you have to leave the meeting before a decision is rendered, please feel free to contact Jeremy at the end there at the planning department anytime in the future, beginning tomorrow afternoon, to get the results from tonight's meeting. With that, we will move to item number 9, which is our public hearing, and item 9A, Allison Marquand Everlast Energy LLC, special permit application to build a ground-mounted solar array of 104 panels, property located at 340 Winding Ridge, Zone R80, SPU 698. The applicants asked or requested a table on this application. Can we get a motion to table that public hearing until our next meeting on 10/1?
I'll make a
So moved,
motion.
Mr. Chair.
We got a motion. We have Guida with a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 9B. Lovely Development, Inc., special permit application to construct an age-restricted housing development property located at 347, 349 Marion Avenue and a portion of 153 Pine Street, zoned in an art zone, which is an age-restricted cluster housing zone. This and item C, which is also for the same location, is a site plan application for 27 units of age-restricted homes. Again, the properties are located at 347, 349, and a portion of 153. That being SPR 1884. Are we okay if we cobble those two together just for efficiency and do them all at once? I know this is the third date of our public hearing on this, but I want to make sure the applicant's okay if we do that.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. Seth Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones, representing the applicant. We have no additional information to present to the commission tonight. I understand that staff might recommend some stipulations, and we have no objections to those stipulations.
I think the engineering department is looking to complete some drainage calculations, which aren't quite done yet, but if we do act on this, perhaps we include that as a stipulation, that draining calculations be completed to the satisfaction of the engineering department. Would that be an accurate
Yes, please.
assumption?
Yes, that would
If
be
you will? You have the same understanding,
We
Sam?
agree.
Okay. So again, this is the third date that we've had a public hearing on this plan. Any additional or questions of the applicant for members of the commission at this time? Seeing none, Sev, you know the drill, take a seat. We'll open it up to members of the public. If there's anyone who'd like to testify on this application or these two applications, please approach the podium, give us your name and your address, and share with us your thoughts, if you will, please. We'll let it one more time. Anybody? Seeing none, Sev, anything you want to add before we consider closing the public hearing on this? Okay. So is there any objection from members of the commission to closing the public hearing on this matter or on this application? Any objection? Everyone good? Okay. Seeing no objection, we'll close the public hearing on those two items, 9B and 9C. Moving on to item 9D. Sarah Moore, Aegis Electrical Systems LLC, special permit application to build a ground-mounted solar array of 28 panels, property located at 973 Pleasant Street, zoned in our 2025 SPU 701. The applicant's here. I will say on this one, just before you get started, I will say that I did get, has a couple members out in that area reach out to me over the last couple weeks, expressing a desire to come and testify in front of the commission. Unfortunately, some of them were not able to be here tonight. So what I promised them is that I would continue or leave the public hearing on this one open at least until our next meeting. So we're not going to close the public hearing on this one, but the applicant's given us an idea of things. I think we had a couple outstanding questions or items out there that I'm going to guess you're here and you're going to address. So again, start with your name and your address and then let us know what you have for us. So
Hi, my name is Sarah Moore, and this is Mike Lusardo. We're representing the applicant Aegis Solar Energy out of 81 School Ground Road in Brantford. So our application is to construct a ground-mounted solar system for Scott and Michelle Yaglowski at 973 Pleasant Street. They do have a current system that was installed in 2014. The size of the system is 10.05 kilowatts. It is a roof-mounted system on the detached garage of the property. This is an aerial view of the property just to give you an idea. It's on the detached garage, the second building. Their current system is not able to accommodate their current electrical usage, and as everyone knows, the rates are going up, so they would like to construct a new system to address that. They have considered other options. The roof on the main house is not sustainable for a new system because of the dormers that are existing. That, and combined with the fact that the roofs are east-west facing, which would make any potential production of a new system detrimental. The payoff for that would not be worth installing. So the proposed system was sized to accommodate their full consumption, their energy consumption on renewable energy. The proposed system is 13.44 kilowatts, and it is a ground-mounted system of a single array. It is 28 panels, 480 watts, and it is 4 by 7 array, so 4 rows, 7 columns. The maximum height of the array would also be 8 foot 6 inches. So the area of the full property is 32,670 square feet. The proposed array would take up a total of 708 square feet. So with that in consideration, to the existing house and the detached garage, the percentage of the property that would be taken up is 6.94%. To give you an idea, I know you had some questions about the topography of the site. The new site plan shows the full topography, including the 1 foot contours of the system. I'm sorry, of the property. The span of the backyard from the northeast corner where the system is proposed to be to the southeast corner, which I know was a question, is about the elevation difference is about 3 feet. Yeah, from one end of the backyard to the other. It is also fairly flat. I have some photos as well that I'll show you of the surrounding area. There is a lower elevation going south. It is the 3 feet from the property, but it raises again as you continue to go south off of the property to where the other properties are built. So there is a divot, but then it goes back up once the other properties are in play. I brought a photo more zoomed out just to show an example. Excuse me. Yeah, so these are the properties that the array would physically be facing. Just to give you an idea of the surrounding property, not just an aerial view, these are the first 2 photos here are the southern border of the property. It's going from east on the left to west on the right. This is the general direction that the array will be facing. The third photo here is showing the west end of the property from the proposed array, and the fourth photo is the northeast corner of the property from the proposed array. I could also go back if you would like to get a further picture of it. I know there were also some questions during the last hearing about any potential glare, heat, or noise that could result from the array. The panels that we're proposing for the array are the Q-Cell Q-Peak 480 watt panels. We brought a spec sheet of it just because the panels themselves have an anti-reflective coating on them that would prevent any glare from occurring. It would eliminate that aspect of it. With the question about heat, without any glare, that would also eliminate heat would come from glare from the array. So there's not really that component that this would add that. on the question about noise, the panels are on a fixed array, and so there's no element to the mounting that would contribute a noise factor, and the panels themselves don't create any noise. The only thing that potentially could is the single inverter that's going to be connected to the array, which is going to be mounted inside the detached garage. So there's nothing outside that would potentially cause noise or disturbance. It was brought up also that, not during the hearing, I'm sorry, but it was brought up that potentially transformers could cause a disturbance to the noise level. But we've already gone through utility review for the project. And Eversource has already approved that the existing transformers for the property are sufficient with the increased energy from the proposed system. The existing utility equipment would remain. There's not going to be any upgrades or change in that because of this. I also brought some example photos just to give you an idea of what the array would look like. These are two similar ground-mounted installations that our company has completed recently. The one on the left is in Vernon, and the one on the and the one on the right is from East Haddam. These are these are the same line of modules, just a different wattage. These are 485 watts, while the ones we're proposing are 480s. These are, of course, much larger system. We're only proposing one array, and it would be smaller than each of these arrays, just to give you an idea of what the panels would look like in the sun. Yep, and this is a photo of the back of one of those installed arrays. There is black netting that you can kind of see between some of the columns between where the metal mounts are. This is black netting that would prevent it contains all the loose wiring and everything, so there's nothing hanging or anything that could potentially be a hazard. And yeah.
Okay. Is that it, sir?
Yes.
No, sir? Any questions for members of the commission to the applicant on this? See, now, I'm gonna go back to where I was a couple weeks ago, just to make sure that I'm understanding it quickly, and I was doing some quick calculations, so by the pictures you submitted, what I'm seeing are 14 current roof-mounted solar arrays on the back side of that garage facing eastward.
So
Is
actually,
that
there's 30
accurate?
total.
No, there's 14 on the back roof.
Yes,
The-
sorry.
And then 16 on the front roof, if I'm counting
Yeah,
that
you can
correctly with my bad eyes.
Yep.
Sorry.
And the total, and the front roof faces west, the back roof faces east.
Correct.
Right, roughly.
Yeah.
The total kilowatt output on both of those two sets is 10.7?
Yes.
10.05.
So those,
10, basically.
yeah. So that system was installed about 10 years ago. So the available wattage of the panels at the time was 335. So that's why the system is physically smaller, even though
Technology
there's.
gets better, right?
Yeah.
Right? I had mine put on like 3 or 5 years ago, maybe, so I'm sure that it's even better now. But
Yeah.
Yep.
keep that picture up there for a second. So just again, what you're proposing is 28 panels for a total kilowatt output of 13.7?
13.44.
13.44, okay. Which would bring it to what? I'm showing 24.4 kilowatt total, but I'm probably off.
The total.
It'd be 23.94.
The maximum for a residential solar system is 25.
Per utility in the
per
state.
utility. Yeah.
Per utility, the maximum for, okay.
Yeah, so the utility company considers a residential size system as 25 kilowatt or less, and the current system plus the proposed system would still fall under that, and we have actually gone through approval with Eversource, and they've approved it for the residential
Got
tariff.
it. And our regulations allow for what maximum?
For the ground-mounted array, 15 kilowatts.
It allows for, let me ask you this is a question, right? Let's just say that there's a suggestion that our maximum allowed solar array per property is 15 kilowatts. Let's just propose that, right? which obviously puts your proposal over that allowed maximum amount. If that's the case, what would you do to modify your proposal?
We'd reduce the quantity of modules on the array, on the new array.
Okay. Let me ask another question. You have roof-mounted solar arrays on the garage, you have zero-mounted arrays on the residential structure. What's to prevent you from putting the solar arrays on the residential structure and avoiding a ground-mounted solar array right now?
So due to the two dormers on the front of the house, the west side, and the dormer on the back side of the house, you can only fit like 6 modules on the house. It was looked at, and it's not beneficial with it being an east-west, obviously sun path, 6 modules, the ROI on the job for the customer and the output of the system is just not even remotely worth it.
So speaking from experience, because I have solar in the backside of my house, fortunately for me, I think, because you don't see it when you drive by, but my southern part of my house faces the south, which is the ideal spot for solar arrays because our south, being in the northern hemisphere, the sun is on the south side, right? So, but two, I'll say that, or I'll ask you this, is there any vegetation coverage that's currently on the property that's prohibiting or affecting a negative desire to put any solar arrays on that current primary residential structure?
Yeah, there's a tree in the front of the property. It's kind of where the N is, designating north. There's a tree there.
Okay. And before I had my solar arrays put on my house, I had them come out and look at it, and we had 9 trees that we had to remove from our property in order for it to make economic sense, which we did. That was a cost to us, right? Also, by luck of the way our house is situated, we're ideal in terms of the way that the house is facing, so we don't have to deal with a east-west situation. That said, solar arrays aren't made for everybody, although I wish everybody could have them because you would enjoy them as much as I do, especially given the situation with today's Eversource bills that people are talking about. But two, I guess, because of that, solar isn't necessarily suited for every single residence because houses aren't necessarily built, especially before solar was a thing, houses weren't necessarily built for solar because, if you're facing on the north, or you're facing north-south, the way the pitch of the roof is, or I'm sorry, east-west, it doesn't work out to your benefit necessarily to put those on your house.
Right, and that's why they have ground mounts.
That's why we allow for ground mount. And two, I might suggest, and I'm not, jury's out on this, that our regulations actually state that 13 kilowatt output is the maximum allowable amount for each residential property unit.
My understanding was it was 15 for a ground mount. Is that wrong?
May I speak about it? When we read the regulations, it stated that they were allowed, provided that the array shall not, when serving residential use, exceed a capacity of 15 kilowatt per dwelling unit on the property. The array will not.
And it could be suggested that that's for total output on solar arrays, total for a property, as opposed to just strictly the ground mounted. I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility. That's why I bring it up to you, so you understand that that's somewhat of a thought that I have anyways up here, and I'm giving you an opportunity to respond to that. Because it's fair to do that, right? I'm not gonna
yeah.
blindside you and come out and say, hey, this is what I think, and, you all don't have an opportunity to say anything about it.
Yeah, our understanding of it was that the provisions were for the ground-mounted array, just to limit the size of the ground mounts.
And you understand that our regulations provide for roof-mounted solar arrays as a right,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Like, that doesn't require action by this commission, but it's only for the ground-mounted solar arrays.
Understood.
Understandable. For the customer, he decided that, and with the evaluation of our company that it was not sustainable or worth it for him to install another system on his primary residence with the obstacles that are on his roof.
One of which is a tree that's in, a rather large tree that's sitting in the front yard.
The tree
By
really.
virtue of what you said earlier. but-
Yeah, I mean, the tree really isn't even the problem. It's the two dormers on the east side and the one dormer on the back. It only allows for roughly 6 panels to be on the house. That's on both sides, so that's, like, I think it was 4 on the back and 2 on the front. Or no, I'm sorry, it was 8.
Okay.
It was 2 on each side of the dormer, which is 6 on the west side, and then 2 between the 2 dormers on the east.
They get very creative in terms of, because when I did it, I told our installer, I want you to maximize whatever you can put up there. So structurally, there's limitations, also limitations based on the pitch of the roof. One part of our backyard roof pitch didn't work out, so they didn't put any up there because it didn't make any sense to do it. We weren't gonna get any real benefit from doing that. But again,
I mean, with that being said, there's also solar companies out there that'll put solar panels on the north side of a house, which makes absolutely no sense.
well,
So-
I think there's companies probably in every business who will do things
Touche.
Right.
Yes,
We're just,
not necessarily in the interest of the customer.
correct.
the purpose of us installing the ground mount is just to make this the most beneficial as possible to the customer. I understand that it may be possible to get around obstacles on the roof, and then it also may be possible to get around the fact that it is not an ideal facing roof, but the combination of the two makes that for this specific situation not ideal.
But two, there might not be an opportunity to get around obstacles on the roof just because of the way the house is situated or the pitch of the roof.
Correct.
Or things like dormers or that type of thing on the roof that's pre-existing that they will try to work around, but they may not be able to work around.
Correct.
You know, for example, just looking at that quickly, if I'm looking at the dormers, I would suggest that they probably would fit 2 on both sides of the dormers, on the outsides of both of those dormers. They could probably fit 2 there.
No.
Is it ideal?
I've
Probably not.
I personally measured the roof,
Okay.
and you can only fit, it's 3 on either side of the west dormer, back side of the house.
Okay.
And 2 in between the 2 dormers on the east side.
Okay. 23.94 kilowatt output is pretty high. What's the need for
So-
that much output?
So that's anticipating the EVs that he's getting and installing heat pumps,
Just clarify what EVs are.
electric vehicles.
He is planning to get one as well as install heat pumps. The anticipated usage for his home is 26,570 kilowatt hours. His current system produces about 11,000 kilowatt hours, and the proposed one would add an additional 15,700, which would be under the anticipated usage for the home. And just, I understand it's on the larger side perceived for a residential system, but the utility does define a residential system as 25 kilowatts or less for their
That's
specific
what
tariffs.
utility says is
As
the
well as the
maximum.
state.
That doesn't necessarily
Yeah,
pertain to our
understandably.
zoning regulations, which is what we're guided by.
Right, understood.
Okay. I think I'm done for now. As I said, we're going to keep the public hearing open on this, so we won't be taking any action on this in consideration of the folks that aren't able to be here tonight. But we did receive a number of letters in opposition to this proposal over the last 24 hours.
Yeah,
Those are
3
all
to
listed
our
on the website.
understanding.
I would encourage you to acquaint yourself with those if you haven't already,
Did.
and just be responsive to them in this forum, because as I said earlier, once a public hearing is closed, we can't take testimony from anybody else. I hope you'll be back here in a couple of weeks. I'm going to open it up to members of the public and give you the opportunity after that. But are there any other, before we do that, any other questions of the applicant or members of the commission at this time? Rob?
Commissioner, thanks. I was going to address what you just said, the concerns, just making sure that you address some of the opposition to this project. Specifically, there was talks of PFAS and chemicals used in the process of making solar panels and making sure that it's not getting back into somebody's well, because that was one of the big concerns I read. So I'd just like for you to specifically address that next time, okay?
So there's no runoff from the modules after rain or snow that I'm aware of. In the manufacturing process, there could be, but post-manufacturing and during an install, none that I've ever come across or been told of. I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, and I've never heard of that from.
No, we just ask you to look into it.
Fair enough.
You all set, Rob? Anybody else? Could I get your name again? I don't think we have.
Mike.
Mike.
Yep.
Last name,
Lusardo,
address,
81 School Ground Road, Branford.
Brantford, Connecticut. You work for the
Aegis.
company?
Yes, sir.
Mike, are you a licensed professional engineer?
I am not a licensed professional engineer.
What's your profession and how does it fit into this application? I'm wondering.
I'm construction coordinator for the company, so I have many roles. I do site surveys, I assist in installs, I do service work. I go out to every customer's house and gather all the technical information for the installations, assist in installations, so on and so forth.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that, Mike?
2 decades.
So 20 years, roughly, how
Roughly.
many ground-mounted solar array systems have you installed over that 20-year period?
100?
100, roughly? Okay.
Roughly, yep.
Any in Southington? Just curious. Doesn't really matter, I'm just wondering.
I think one at a previous company.
Yeah.
And it
We
was-
just
it was
recently
years-
adopted
years ago.
ground-mounted regulations, that's why I'm asking. So
Last November, right?
2021, we did it, I think
Okay.
it was. I think it became effective in September, off the top of my head, of '21. So
Okay.
that would make it roughly about 2 years, 3 years old.
Yeah, it would have been before that.
Well, we wouldn't have allowed ground-mounted solar arrays before that,
No, then I guess
at
I
least
haven't.
not in residential areas. Maybe we did it in industrial areas. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Okay, thanks for your time. I'm going to open up, as I said, to members of the public, and we'll give them an opportunity to provide input. Sit tight, and if there's any thing that you want to respond to afterwards, you'll be given that opportunity before we move on to the next item on the agenda, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, folks. So at this time, I'll open it up to members of the public. Anyone wishing to testify on this application, please come up, sir. Give us your name and your address, and just share your thoughts with us, please.
My name is Dwayne Howard. I have 156 McIntosh Way, and my backyard is directly behind where these solar panels are going to be. The back third of their yard is my entire backyard. So as those panels go up, I'm going to be looking at those panels. I've got nothing against renewable energy. I just feel that putting them in a residential neighborhood, especially our neighborhood, we have a lot of kids, nice neighborhood, there's a lot of families around. It's not gonna be nice looking. And I'm just thinking that when I'm in my backyard, and we can't determine the exact angle, but if the glare is in my eyes while I'm sitting on my back porch, or I'm looking out the window on my second floor and the glare is just coming in the window, I can't walk over to my neighbor and say, can you turn the panels so they're not glaring in my eyes? They're set. They're 8 feet tall. I'm gonna have to look at them all the time. I do have bushes behind there, which I trim every year and make it all nice and neat. My yard is nice and clean. And I just don't think that they belong in a half-acre zone lot. They're industrial operating systems, and it just doesn't belong there. I'm kind of reading my notes that I have here. So I already said that I'll be in direct sight of all these panels. I wish I could have pulled that plan up again, but my lot is the third one
I'm
over.
going to actually have our town planner pull that up for you,
Okay.
so you can show us where you're at. Is it Dwayne or
Dwayne Howard,
Dwayne with a D, right?
D-U-A-N-E.
Okay.
Yep.
Dwayne, why don't you come up here? I'm going to give you my pointer to use, and I'm going to ask you to just point out for us where your property is located. So if you just push this button right there, we'll give you a pointer, okay? He's going to pull it up just so you can show us. Are you on that map?
So here's the property, here's the property in question right here. My house is right here.
Okay,
Those array of solar panels are going right there.
right.
And like I said, most of my property is right in direct sight. There's my back porch, everything right there. It just, I just feel that something like this, these type of solar panels, I see them in solar fields all over the place, and they should be directed to more of a 2-acre site than a half-acre parcel where there's all residential homes all the way around on McIntosh Way. And I'm speaking for myself. I'm sure my other neighbors would love to have been here. They probably had other things going on. They couldn't make it. Just trying to go through my notes here. Just bear with me. And I understand that a lot of these solar fields they're set up for, and again, I don't know too much about zoning, R80 zones or something like that, where they have the big solar fields instead of, I think we're R25, I'm not sure. And it's just, the density of houses, we're just so close. If they were way back and I didn't see them, they probably wouldn't bother me. But they are. I built a beautiful home. I've been there for 20 years now, and I like the neighborhood. And I have nothing against my neighbors. I really don't even talk to them. I don't even know them really. But I just think it's going to be a big eyesore for me. And I think the reflection, whether it be in my eyes, at my house, I don't know. But they're not sitting on the ground. They're 8 feet up in the air. This big, huge conglomeration of solar panels. And I stood on my second floor window thinking that, well, let me see if my bushes would block it. I can clearly see them without even worrying about it. They're sticking out right out in the middle of nowhere. And there's far back on the property line, which is, they'll be right about there, and there's my house, and they'll be sitting all in the back over there. And I think the R80 has a minimum of 2 acres, if I'm not mistaken, for all these solar panels. I don't blame my neighbors for wanting to put solar panels up and trying to bring their electric bill down. I'm sure we all want our electric bill down. But it's just, it's not the place. It's not the place in a residential neighborhood for big, huge solar fields. Because I think if once this gets done, then what's going to happen in our town? Everybody's going to start putting them up in all their backyards. Because once they get approved, they're going to say, listen, they did it, why can't we do it? And I just think it's just going to be all over the place. Put them where people don't see them. That's all I'm asking. I just don't want to see them. And I think that's it. I just, when I heard it was going in, I just felt I had to say something. My wife and I, we wrote a letter, we sent it to the panel, and I just would hope that you would reconsider allowing a big solar field in a residential neighborhood
Okay.
where it's not zoned really.
We haven't considered it yet, so we
I know,
can't
but just-
reconsider it, but okay.
Just think about it,
No,
please.
I understand what you're saying. Could I just ask you a couple questions just to
Sure.
clarify? Is there a buffer between your property and this property?
Yes,
What is it?
it's arborvitaes.
What's the height of those arborvitaes?
The arborvitaes right now, I think
Roughly
12 feet.
12 feet?
Yeah, and I get them every fall. I get them trimmed down because I'm trying to make a nice even wall myself.
Got it.
The neighbor next door, which is right there,
Yeah.
the Regal Booties. We did it all together. We planted all these trees together 20 years ago because we just wanted to have a nice clean, like a fence. And we have them trimmed every year so they get nice and fat and they're full. and they just look nice, but I just don't want to see the solar
I-
fields.
I'll tell you what, I'm envious. I'm trying to do the same thing in my yard, but, you know, talk to people up here, I talk about it a lot. 20 years it takes, wow. You own those, correct?
Yes.
Is there anything on the other side of those, any buffer between them, any?
No,
any,
there is nothing.
Cover, any
Nope.
fencing,
Nope.
anything to block that view?
No.
So if those abrevieties, your abrevieties were not there, you would have a clear shot into the backyard of that property, correct?
Correct.
And is that viewable from this, would that be viewable from the first floor of your residence?
More or less from the second floor.
And from the second floor, you could see, even with the 20-foot abrevieties, you could still see.
Clearly see in the
straight
back.
into that section where they're proposing to put the arrays. correct?
Clearly, clear as day.
Okay. The second floor, not to pry too much in that area, I'm assuming it's a bedroom type of a situation, maybe
All
a
my
bathroom
bedrooms are in the
there?
back, yes. Bathroom.
Okay.
There's bathrooms, bedrooms, bonus room
Okay.
above the garage.
Okay, it's a primary resident.
It's a colonial,
living
yes.
space, yeah,
Yep.
okay. Okay, I'm good. Dwayne, anything from Caleb has a question for you, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Howard, thank you. So my question would be, the way it's situated right now, if that array was in the northwest corner of the property, it's a pretty just clear shot, as you indicated. And I'm looking for.
Well, right now where they're gonna put it will be the
Northwest.
northeast.
East. Thank you. Yeah, 'cause
East
that would
side.
be on Pleasant Street.
Yes.
That wouldn't be very good. If it was considered to be relocated to the southeast, to be closer to those abrevieties, so that it would eliminate the, if I'm trying to say this right, the angle from your second floor down, and it would catch that 12-foot arborvitae, and it would hide it from your property, would you consider something like that as a balance?
I couldn't answer that right now.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right. That's the question I had.
Okay, Caleb, anyone else have a question of Mr. Howard? Anyone? Thank you, sir, for coming out, appreciate your input and taking the time to indulge us, so.
Thank you. Appreciate
Let's talk
it.
about arborvitae someday, I need to get there.
Well, the other thing I wanted
Mine are
to
only
say,
about 3 years old and only about, what, 6.5 feet high, but. you
they'll
know,
grow. A lot of water.
I have big aspirations for them, they need to do their work, but,
Well,
Anyways.
the other thing I also thought about, what if, they have a disease out there for the arborvitaes, and I did lose a few a couple years ago, and it's a bug that comes and eats those things alive within months.
sack bugs, I think they're called.
I don't remember what they were, but I had a guy come in and he took them all down, cleaned them all up. But if my trees were to die, I've got thousands of dollars in trees planted right now. That would mean a clear view, because you only buy these things 4 feet high.
Yeah.
It took me 20 years to get to where they were. So I'm gonna have a clear shot if those happen to die. I'm not saying they will, but if they did.
Pray to God that doesn't happen. I don't want that. I dread it I lose sleep over it, but okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You just bring the pointer back up here if you can, just so we keep track. Anyone else here would like to testify on this application at this time? Okay. Seeing none, as I said, we're going to keep the public hearing open on this, but I want to give you an opportunity if you want to respond to Mr. Howard's comments or anything else you might want to say before we move on from here. You'll have an opportunity in 2 weeks too, so don't feel obligated to come up right now. It's your call, though. Again, start with your name and address so that our stenographer can get that down for our minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Sarah Moore. This is Mike Lusardo. We're out of 81 School Ground Road in Brantford. I'm very sympathetic to the thought that the panels would be in view of the neighboring properties. I would like to rest assured, if the project were to go forward, there would be no glare towards the surrounding properties, just due to the schematics of the panels themselves. I also wanted to just bring up that these are the same panels that would, if the customer were able to do it, or any customer were able to do a rooftop system on a residential property, these are the same panels that would be used. The only difference is that they're mounted on steel rods opposed to the roof. Just they're not like commercial grade panels, if that
Okay.
makes a difference.
Steve?
Members of the commission at the previous meeting brought up glare. The resident brought up glare. You're saying there's no glare.
Yeah.
I think that's important to have out there. If there's no glare, we need to know that.
Yeah, the panels have an anti-glare, anti-reflective coating on them.
Thank you. I just felt I wanted that on the record. It's important.
I
Understood.
appreciate it.
Does that anti-glare coating 100% eliminate the glare? Or is it just minimize the glare a little bit?
It reduces it by like 80%.
So there's still glare, there's just not as much
There's-
glare
there's-
as if it
there's
wasn't
re-
on there.
There's reflection, not glare.
Naturally, you would get reflection off of glass from the
Exactly,
sun, right?
exactly.
Okay,
There's no actual
okay.
glare.
And then Caleb. you-
Again, could you just state your name?
Michael
just-
Lusardo, 81 School Ground Road, Branford, Connecticut.
Okay,
You had mentioned moving them to the southern portion of the property. Even if the customer were willing to do that, unfortunately, he has his septic tank right there. So it's not an option.
I can appreciate that.
okay. That's a hindrance.
Yeah, because we were originally actually looking at that area, and then we found out that that's where the septic was, and.
Yeah, we had gone through the health district as well prior to submitting our applications here, just to ensure that the property, the location was acceptable to them as well.
Do you acknowledge, as Mr. Howard stated, that aside from his vegetation, that there is no buffer between his yard and your yard?
Correct.
So if those abrevieties were, God forbid, to be disease-stricken and disappear, then it would be a straight shot view between his yard and yours, correct?
Correct.
There's no
And-
fencing?
Not on that side of the, not on the south side of the property. However, the customer may be interested in putting up a fence. I don't
If that
know.
were a consideration that you would.
Correct.
What do our regulations allow for the height of fences?
I'm sorry. Up to 6 feet, there's no permit required. Beyond that, it would require a permit.
And do we have a maximum allowable fence? I mean, could somebody put up a 20-foot fence in their backyard?
I'm not aware. I'd need to look
Yeah.
specifically. I mean,
Okay, maybe that's something we could look at, but, okay. Caleb?
One more question, sorry. If you could help me out and maybe guide us even to next time, if you want to just collect the information. I'm, in between comments, I've been trying to look at the spec sheet for the panels, and I'm trying to identify where that anti-glare mechanism is in here, and I just can't find it.
So I don't think it was on the page that's in that sheet. It was on, she had it on the SD card, or the SIM card.
Oh, it's not.
So I have in front of us as part of the packet, your QPeak Duo XL, boy, I sound like a commercial, XL G10.3-BFG 475. It's like their spec sheet, so it's not on that.
The parallel one is on the second page on the top.
Top right.
It's in the columns.
Are you looking at the information, Caleb, that says anti-glare information?
Yes.
So if you go to the second sheet,
Second
allow me to try to clarify
Thank you.
for you.
Thank you.
If you go to the second sheet there, there's a highlighted portion that is
Oh, you uploaded all that already.
titled under mechanical specification, right? You see the highlighted piece there?
0.08 inch
Right,
thermally pre-stressed
right.
glass with anti-reflection technology.
That's what I'm gonna assume is your anti-glare information.
Yep. Yeah, it's chemicals.
And as testified, it's reduces it at a level of 80% of what would normally be the reflection or glare from those panels.
There it is.
All
Thank
right?
you.
Okay. Anything else for members of the commission? Anything else before we? Okay, as I said, we're going to keep the public hearing open on this, and please come back in a couple weeks and we'll see where we are, so.
Just one thing. You had asked about the pollution from any chemicals. Excuse me. You want documentation about that? Is that what you're looking for? Or some sort of
Just
data?
clarify, I mean, we know they're treated with chemicals to create sustainability, but, just this specific product that you're using, just make sure you find some information on that.
I will dig as far as I can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to item 9E, Wesley Coat, special permit application to construct a detached garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 131 Mount Vernon Road, zone in R 2025, SPU 704. Wesley, come on up. Even though I just read your name and your address, if you could just start off by giving us that, just so everybody else knows, you know? Thanks.
It's going Wesley Cody, 131, 137 Mount Vernon Road, Plantsville. And I'm looking to put up a detached garage on the property at the end of the driveway because I plan on removing the 2-car garage from the house and trying to make that livable space for an expanding family.
Okay. So we have some information in our package, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was all the stuff that you provided to the town.
Yeah, I
It
didn't-
just
yeah.
goes on the record, so we have
Okay,
it up
yeah.
here. Are you all set? We're going to open up the questions here. Any questions for members of the commission of the applicant? Steve?
So you're looking at 40 by 40,
Yes, sir.
1,600 square feet.
Yes.
How many, you're in a 2025 zone, what's the square footage of your lot, do you know, off
It's 1.1 acre.
1.1?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a large,
Yes, I have a, so I'm gonna put it close to the house because there was a storm. I talked to Jeremy. With him. But there's a storm drain that runs through the yard, so I can't really, I'm placing it where I am because I don't want to interfere with that storm drain and keep it far off the property line, so
and you
it doesn't.
currently have a 2-car
Yes,
that you're saying that you're going to?
yes, so both vehicles don't fit in there. It's an older, low, it's like 6'6", the height of the garage doors, so neither vehicle fits in there. And it's a very short garage inside, so I want to turn it into a livable space and move all my garage stuff into a garage outside, place to store my camper and all my outside stuff.
So if we were to stipulate that once the new garage was complete, that the old garage became unusable, you would agree to that?
Yes. As long as it could be in within like 3 years, so I could
Sorry,
afford
what?
it. As long as it's within like a 3-year period, so I could afford to do the conversion. So I mean, this garage is gonna cost a lot, so I don't really have that much money, so I mean, I'm gonna need like a year to recoup to be able to do it, if that's okay. I mean, I'll
I'm not sure
sign
it's
it.
okay, but I appreciate your answer.
Okay, yeah.
Anything else from members of the commission? Rob?
So, Commissioner Stephen just talked about the square footage being 1,600 square feet.
Yes.
The average size of a single car garage is about 240 square feet. So this is 6 times that. I know you just said something about 2 vehicles and a
So
camper.
I have 2 vehicles, a camper and a dump trailer.
Okay.
And my lawnmowers and all the attachments to the lawnmower I'd like to keep inside. Because just to clean the yard up, make it look nice. Over
Okay.
the past few years, I've been trying to clean it up.
Now, you've owned this property for over 10 years now?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just provide a little color? Some of the pictures online, when I just Google searched your house, looked like they had a lot of heavy-duty trucks in the property.
Well, that was when I got out of the Marine Corps. I had vehicles.
Boys?
I built stuff. I built trucks. And then I have my father's equipment I brought there to clear all the dead trees because the lady was older, so I took a lot to clean up all the dead trees, everything in the yard. So I had the excavator there doing all that. And since then, I got married and sold everything, so I have nothing now.
Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
I wanted to get a motorcycle license, never happened.
yeah.
Yeah, gotta get it.
So this is where
You're
I'm at.
young, Rob. You
Yeah,
can still do it.
I still got time. All right, that's it for me.
No offense to anybody married. So.
Thanks. Anyone else? Caleb?
So the photos that you took us, the exterior facades of the structure are white. Are you intending to match it? What are the exterior facades of your house?
The house is blue with wood, like, what do you call it?
Shingle.
Like a wood shingle siding that's past its age, so we recently painted the house to try to keep it going. But I would like to eventually change the house to like a board and batten look,
And that's what.
and down in the future, and that's what I'm gonna make the barn, or
Okay.
the garage.
So
yeah.
it's, okay.
To make it look like a, not garage, to make it look like part of the,
So what we look for is anything like this is to match the existing structure, so that
Yes.
it fits in with the look of the neighborhood, so to speak.
well, that's why I wanna go with the white and the board and batten, because I feel like it'll match a little better than my old siding that's on the house currently. It'll still be wood, still the same material,
Okay,
but
good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's it. Kristen,
For the,
Kristen, could you get closer? I can't hear you, sorry.
sorry, for the garage, when you're
Yes.
constructing it, is it gonna be like a two-story, like you're gonna have an attic up above?
no, it's gonna be a clear span and truss roof. So no above attic.
So it's just gonna be bays?
It's gonna be 3 bays, yes. One drive-through for the camper and the pickup truck trailer and my wife's car.
But then, so you're gonna spend, and I'm just hypothesizing, you're gonna spend money to build it, but then you're gonna convert it?
I'm
To a
converting
living
my
space?
old garage at my house. I have a attached garage and it's a 2-bay. I want to convert that into living space on my house.
Was that the one that you were saying that you were gonna demolish?
No,
Oh, gotcha.
yes, yeah, because it's like it's really tiny. So I'm trying to maybe make like a kid's room out of it.
Okay, thank you,
possible.
sorry for,
Nope,
thank you
it's
for
okay.
clarifying.
I actually have.
You all set? Are you all set? Okay, any other questions from members of the commission?
Yeah, that's what.
Hey, why are you making this conversion? What's the impetus behind what you wanted to do
So
here?
we had a kid in 2021 or 22, my daughter Ellie, and I recently found out my wife's pregnant again, and we don't have the room. So
Congratulations.
I need to do
What's
something.
what's the current square footage without that garage conversion?
1,600 square feet, but it's a cape upstairs,
Okay,
and it's only like 1 bedroom. It's really not an ideal setup, if you would.
how many bedrooms do you have in the primary residence?
Currently, when I bought the house, it said it had 4, but it's, I don't know if you consider like a 5-by-5 room on a cape, because it had a closet and a knee wall. So it's a 4-bedroom technically, but realistically, it's just a 2-bedroom,
Okay,
because it's not really usable.
okay. All right, any other questions of the members? Caleb, for a
All
second
right,
time.
second bite of the apple.
Come on, let's get our questions in at once. So we
I
can-
I know, but as I was looking at this, the question I typically ask for any of these applications is, the vicinity of a new impervious structure adjacent to the property line. And so when I was looking at your rendering of your site plan, it's kind of vague, and I'm trying to figure out, it looks like it's gonna connect to the existing driveway. Are you adding driveway?
I am not adding any driveway. I'm gonna cut out, I think it's like 10 feet of driveway at the end of it, because there's an old shed there. So I'm gonna have to cut the driveway there and then put that, just so when my wife parks, she doesn't have to walk 50 feet. Plus, there's a storm drain on the opposite side. So I can't really move the garage any closer or farther.
And I
without
started to see it, I guess my
interfering.
problem was that
I didn't
when I
know it,
was
yeah.
looking at the rendering of the site plan, it was a little bit difficult to picture, but that's pretty much smack in the middle of the property, if I'm looking at it.
It's, so if you drive down, it'd be, yeah, I guess it'd be the middle of the driveway, but it's the end of the, or middle of
Yeah.
the property, but it's the end of the driveway.
So your house is kind of like if you're looking from Mount Vernon, it's to the lower left.
Yes.
This thing is straight up in the middle. of
Down,
your lot.
yeah, but down. So the house is to the, yeah, if you're coming down Lagana,
Yep.
house is on your right, like really close to the road, and then the garage will be set like 75 feet back,
Gotcha.
almost in line of where the
I grew
old.
up on Lagana.
Oh, did you? Okay. So you were
Okay,
familiar.
cool. Yeah, that kind of squares everything away. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
You all
Is
set?
that good? Yeah.
Okay. Wesley, anything else you want to say before we open it up to members of the public?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. If I forget, and I don't want to, congratulations on the pending birth of
Oh,
your
thank you.
new child. All the best
Appreciate it.
wishes for you, so.
Thanks.
With that, let's open it up to members of the public. Is there anyone here who'd like to testify on this application? Please, again, come up to the podium, start with your name and your address, and share your thoughts with us.
Good evening. Kyle Niles, 116 Mount Vernon Road. I live right across the street from Wes. And I just want to say that since he's moved in, he's done wonderful things with that property. He's cleaned it up tremendously. He's got some nice, expensive, big vehicles that I'm sure he wants to get out of the weather and put into a building, and I think the structure would fit the property the way it should. I mean, it's a big lot, and his house is close to the road, so when you drive in his driveway, it goes down, it'd be sitting back. I think it would be in a great location, and I have no problems with it. So
Okay, sir.
I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there saying,
Always appreciate it. Always good to see people come out.
Kudos to the-
So
to
I
the barn.
appreciate, I'm sure that Wesley appreciates it as well. So I guess that good relationship can continue, right? Any questions of Mr. Niles? Seeing none, thank you for coming out and sharing your thoughts with us.
thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to testify? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Ed Sear, 161 Mount Vernon Road. I live to the north of Wes. Kind of mirroring the statements that was made before, I moved into this my home about 5 years ago, watching Wes's house be improved month after month, year after year. He's also helped me improve my own. They've done great work, and I've been blessed to be good friends with his family, and seeing just finding out that his family is now growing. He kept that one from me. I can vouch for the need of the garage. His current garage is very small. I could barely fit my car in there, let alone his trucks. So the property is kept well, and the garage would not be any type of eyesore. And that's about all I have to say on that one.
Okay. Could you give me your name again? I didn't hear it.
Ed Sear.
Ed Sear, okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Sear. Any questions of Mr. Sear from members of the commission? Seeing none, sir, thank you for coming out and sharing your thoughts with us. Thanks. Anyone else wish to testify at this time? Leslie, you want to come up and say anything else, or you good? Yeah, good plan. Okay, any objection to closing the public hearing on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on that. Moving on to item 9F, Town of Southington Special Permit Application for Contaminated Soil Cleanup and Associated Site Work, property located at 999 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike, zone in R 2025, SPU 703. Good day.
Good evening. Okay, thanks. Nicholas Gordata, Connecticut, licensed environmental professional with Ty and Bond, office 213 Court Street in Middletown. So we're here to present a PCB remediation cleanup project at the Town of Southington's wastewater treatment facility. I'm going to just briefly provide a little bit of project context and history, and I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's the project engineer, to describe the plans for the project. So in aerial view, you can see there clearly that's a wastewater treatment plant, and in the box shown is the overall subject area that will be undergoing cleanup for PCB contamination. A little brief project history just to kind of set the stage for what we're planning to do. So PCBs were discovered on this property in 2006 in the form of sewage sludge residuals. The box you see in the aerial photograph there to the right-hand side is the general area where PCBs were identified. The PCBs have been attributed to historic discharges that were discharged to the town's sewerage system, historically over many decades. Since then, there's been quite a bit of investigation and cleanup activity since the 2006 timeframe. Two major phases of cleanup have been completed. The first was in the 2008-2009 timeframe, and it was associated with the denitrification plant expansion construction project. The building at this kind of the center of that rectangle is the denitrification facility. That PCB cleanup was done to help facilitate construction of that building and treatment facilities. The second major phase of cleanup was done a little more recently, 2019, 2020, and that was associated with the phosphorus upgrade project. And if you're looking at the aerial there, it's the building to the left-hand side that was recently installed. And again, on a similar note, there was a pretty large-scale PCB cleanup implemented to help facilitate construction of those buildings. Essentially what happened was there was a clean corridor established around them. As part of that, though, the town was obligated to provide a schedule to clean up the rest of the property. And again, the PCB contamination is generally within that rectangle you see there in the aerial. That being said, we've moved on and we've been planning over the last 5 years what we're calling the final phase of remediation, which generally includes the following. Removal of PCBs that are over 100 parts per million. Andrew's going to go into more detail on this with the site plans. We're removing all the PCB contamination that currently is present within the floodplain. We're going to be consolidating and capping PCBs on the property under something referred to as an engineer control. We'll be installing fencing and warning signage, which is actually already present on the property. We'll just be repurposing it around the final engineer control area. And then finally, at the conclusion of the project, we'll be filing something called an environmental use restriction, which will prohibit certain activities, obviously, in this area on the property.
Could I just want to interrupt you
Absolutely.
on somewhat of an administrative item.
Sure.
I previously had worked for a company, Diversified Technology Consultants, who I think was a sub-consultant to Ty and Bond on this project. Is there any involvement, just for my own due diligence, is there any involvement of that company in this phase of the operation?
No.
There is not?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Andrew now.
Yeah. We just had to clear the air, Andrew, before we move forward. Otherwise, I just would have to recuse myself just to keep it clean, you know? But
Understood.
Go with it.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Andrew White. I'm a licensed professional engineer registered in the state of Connecticut. Office is 213 Court Street, Middletown, Connecticut. What you see before you is a blow-up of the site plan that's been colorized. This is showing the areas that we are excavating the soils down. There are two areas, if the cursor cooperates, there are two areas with this more palish green yellow box. These two areas are volumes of soil that are above the 100 whatever it was, milligrams per
100 parts per million.
100 parts per million. One of those. That's why he's the environmentalist. So we have approximately 352 cubic yards of that material. That needs to be removed and disposed of off-site legally at a proper facility. The remaining area is around 2,278 cubic yards. That is all going to be excavated and brought into a consolidation area that is located west of the phosphorus treatment plant. The area itself, the little harder to see here, but there's a pale green line which represents the existing tree line as I make my way across and up, and then the darker green line is our proposed limits of tree clearing in order to accommodate the excavation of the PCB contaminated soils. What we are designing this plan to utilize a low-lying portion that used to be an existing lagoon, and with the contamination and activities on the site, is fairly void of tree cover at this moment. There is an existing knoll that runs from the northeast by my cursor here down to the southwest, and that we're using that as a backstop to the northwest portion of the consolidation area. So that'll get to utilize that depression to fill up the volumes and then bring the height of the engineered control and consolidation area up. During this phase of excavation, we will be installing sheeting at the limit of the clean corridors that Nick had mentioned earlier. So we have areas north of this line that are already remediated and cleaned. So sheeting will be installed so we don't have to double excavate into clean soils. And then the perimeter will be controlled with soil erosion controls along the limits of the tree clearing. And the excavation and consolidation would occur within the limits of this boundary. We are showing the haul route and soil erosion control pad for removal of the material that would go off-site. But for the majority of this, it remains on-site. So most activities will be localized to just the project area. It would only be that transport of material off-site and any new material such as riprap and stone that would be brought inside as part of the engineered control cap. So the area shown in green here, this is the proposed consolidation area. This is proposed to be armored with riprap on the west side, seeded and loamed on the east side, and will have to be maintained and not have vegetated tree cover over this, similar to a dam structure or other engineered structure that needs regular maintenance. As part of this, because we are excavating within the floodplain, we are expanding the volume of the floodplain. So we are doing an excessive cut within the floodplain and bringing that material up and reshaping. So what you see here in this blue line that's a bit more jagged is the existing floodplain as it exists now with the natural topography. And this dashed green line that's in here that then hugs the toe of the slope is the new floodplain line. So that brings the floodplain closer to the consolidation area and increases the volume that the floodplain has. As mentioned previously, there are two sections that are shown, one with the riprap cap that is on the floodplain side to provide extra resiliency for this consolidation area. Though most of this is above the floodplain, it is best practice to have this consolidated area with armored protection for resiliency. And then we also have the vegetated component. Beneath the required 12 inches of clean soil, we also have a high visibility orange demarcation layer. So in case anyone does happen to get on site and starts digging, you would immediately see an orange no-go barrier. And then beneath that is an erosion, a geotextile for erosion control. So if there was ever a tree falls, punctures the cap, you'd have a erosion control barrier below the soil as well to keep everything underneath intact. These are sections showing the consolidation area. The highest point at the lowest depression at the center is about 10 feet tall from the west side of the phosphorus treatment plant, which is the section AA to the north. If you were standing at that curb line, this pile would be only 5 feet above you because you're up at a higher elevation. So for the majority, 5 to 6 feet tall at its very deepest, where the topography lowers, about 10 feet tall. We've also provided a planting plan. A lot of the soils are associated with wetlands. We were in front of the Inland Wetland Commission last month. They did review the plant list. There are no invasives. It's all native plants. We are proposing highly organic soil within the floodplain and wetlands areas. And then around, let me see, so 14 trees and 115 shrubs that are at that toe of slope. and in the wetland itself, as well as loam and seed for that eastern side of the consolidation area. And with that, happy to turn it back to the commission for questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of the commission to the applicant? Caleb?
I have two.
Fire away,
Try not
man.
to go back to the apple too many times today. This area is right around a park area, so it's kind of a area that we want to make sure that it maintains in as safe as possible condition. First question, I guess they're all kind of the same question. When you are removing the material off-site, and you might have mentioned this, I want to make sure that I caught it, though. Any tracking, anti-tracking to make sure that none of the materials are moved out onto the pavement? That's that brown square?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is a just standard soil erosion control anti-tracking pad, which is 3-inch stone layered, so it rumbles the tires of the trucks, knocks off any material. There will also be a multitude of environmental controls that Nick could speak to
I'd
more.
also add that there will be, per EPA's guidance, there'll be a cleanup plan that's submitted to the federal agency, which outlines very stringent decontamination protocols. No equipment will leave that property without being fully decontaminated and actually tested. We do a series of wipe tests, making sure that those surfaces are clean, and therefore we're not tracking contamination outside of any of these zones.
I'm assuming, that being said, all those trucks will be covered?
Yes.
Okay. And the second question, a time of year that this is going to be proposed to be done. Obviously, some parts of the year are wetter than others.
Right.
Some are drier than others. That would facilitate dust being blown around the area. Dust mitigation for that area. Can you explain that a little bit, please?
Sure, absolutely. So during the implementation phase, I think
Can we just get closer to the mic, please?
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. So during the implementation phase, we'd be looking at probably tree clearing to occur in the winter. There's some permitting wrapped around that, why it's advantageous to do tree clearing in the winter. We're probably looking at the construction season, late spring, summer, to do this. Yes, there are. I will add that the contamination in the soil is above the water table as well. We don't expect to do any dewatering below ground. But there would absolutely be dust monitoring protocols. We would be monitoring that, continuously throughout the project to ensure there is, no migration of dust or that type of activity occurring.
Is water used to mitigate dust?
Yes,
It is.
it can be. Mhm.
And
And just one point with the mention of the tree clearing in the winter, that would be cutting of the trees, but not grubbing of the soils. So we would leave the root balls intact. So there is a concern with some of the species that are endangered in the area that you'd want to actively do tree cutting in the winter months. But we would, for purposes of soil erosion, we wouldn't want to be grubbing that soil and removing that root mass in the winter.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, both.
All set?
Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Steve?
How many yards of material did you say would actually be leaving the site?
352 yards.
So 18 to 22 truckloads?
Correct.
So we're not talking about
Not
volumes.
not talking a lot of volume out.
So it's minimal impact to the site, the community.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, yeah, LEP, I didn't get your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nicholas Granata.
Nick, stay up there for a second. You're licensed by the state of Connecticut as a licensed environmental professional, LEP, correct?
That's correct.
And that's a licensure that comes after a lot of rigorous education and testing and so on that you have to renew every certain number of years?
Every year.
Every year? What department regulates and licenses LEPs in the state of Connecticut?
DEP.
DEP, and in effect, even though Ty and Bond is your employer, in effect, to be blunt, you really are an arm of the State Department of Environmental Protection, correct?
That is exactly correct. Yep.
And as the LEP on this project, or any project that involves remediation or removal or any type of contaminated soils such as this, you would be the point person and in charge of all the ongoings and documentation and so on and so forth as required by the Connecticut State Department of Environmental Protection, in addition to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, it is.
So the gentleman to your left, I believe, he looks to my right now, the PE on this project, he essentially has to do what you tell him to do, correct?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I've played in this sandbox, though, so I'm well familiar with it.
But I'll take his advice, too.
Yeah, one final question to Commissioner Cole's points. You're obligated to ensure that any disturbance, any transportation or movement to and from this site or to its eventual, all the way through its eventual location, destination, if you will, including that destination and when it gets there, how it gets handled, what anyone does with it, whether it's a truck driver, an engineer, or anyone on the ground with a sand shovel may do. You're responsible to ensure that that complies with any rules, regulations promulgated by our state or the federal authorities with regards to remediation of PCBs in this particular project. Is that accurate?
Yes, and I will add that there'll be, responsibility put on whomever contractor is awarded the project. So, we'll direct the entire, cleanup. And with the project will go out to bid. It will be publicly bid, and a contractor, once selected, will be held to very detailed specifications, covering everything you just articulated.
And specifications and compliance with you have to ultimately sign off with.
Yes,
sign off on
we would
as-
verify, absolutely.
Correct, okay. An awesome responsibility, and one I'm sure you take very seriously. I know LEPs, and I know it's a very awesome responsibility, so I'm sure you do a great job, and it's a great organization you work for. So, but I just wanted to clarify the level of, and for your benefit, the hierarchy of the organization in terms of project management and so on and so forth, with all due respect to our licensed professional engineer who sits to your left again. But, okay, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant from members of the commission at this time? Seeing none, take a seat. We're going to open it up to members of the community to see if there's anyone who'd like to testify on this application. Anything, could I just ask our engineering department, there are steps and assurances that make sure that this project is going to be done correctly and to the satisfaction of the town of Southington, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We've been working with them hand in hand on this project for years now, and we will help develop the specifications with them. We'll have input on that.
And of course, you'll consider as part of any hiring of contractors, the input from the LEP as well as the professional engineering staff
Absolutely.
at Ty and Bond, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, or any other questions for members of the commission to the applicant at this time? Seeing none, are we okay to close the public hearing on this? All right, let's do that. Item number F. Moving on to item number 10 on the agenda. This is our business meeting. Item 10A, I'm looking for a motion to table. Commissioner Britton with a motion to table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Chaplinsky with a second on that one. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10B, Lovely Development, Inc., special permit application to construct an age-restricted housing development property located at 347, 349 Marion Avenue and a portion of 153 Pine Street zoned in an arch zone. Again, this is a special permit application. We will move to the site plan after this, but this is the part of the application that does not involve the site plan. So, discussion.
I guess I would just like to say that at this day and age where it's hard to get people to agree on anything, looking at it from the town's perspective, this development addresses not putting additional burden on the schools, and it also looks to increase our affordable housing inventory, which we are obligated to be increasing. So
There you go. Is that do I hear a
Increasing.
motion to approve this
I'll make a
one?
motion to approve
All right.
SPU number 698.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Japlinski with a second. Sorry.
Discussion.
Okay. Any other discussion on this?
Are we supposed to stipulate that the applicant is supposed to work with the engineering department on modifications needed for the drainage system after a full review of the drainage report is completed?
Good catch, Commissioner Guida. You did a great job. Is that a friendly amendment to the original motion that they work to the satisfaction of the drain? I think there were outstanding drainage calculation that needed to be done on this, that those be done to the satisfaction of the town engineering department?
I'm agreeable.
You agreeable? Are you agreeable as a seconder to that? Okay, we have agreement on an amended motion. Thank you for your catch there. Any further discussion on this? Caleb?
I just wanted to say, I have some serious reservations, not about the development itself, but about the water runoff and flooding concerns that I have. And hearing from the people in the neighborhood and listening to some of the testimony, I'm still not entirely convinced that creating this project is not going to have an adverse effect to the surrounding properties.
Okay,
That's where I'm at.
is that it? Is there any other discussion for members of the commission? Okay, I'm just going to say two things. One, I'm just going to read for the members of the community a paragraph. We get a document that just sort of fills us in on each application. I think this one paragraph sums it up pretty good on where my head is here. And I'll just read it. Bear with me, members of the commission. I apologize, but I appreciate your indulgence at the same time. There are 5 purpose statements listed in the ARCH regulation, which include increasing the types of housing with emphasis on common interest communities, targeted towards seniors, providing a land use option in sustainable location with utilities, creating high-quality developments with long-term value, promoting project designs that enhance and protect open space and natural features, and to achieve the goals of the Plan of Conservation and Development. It is timely that Jen Clark, who had put together, was a leader in putting together our current Plan of Conservation and Development, was here tonight, because I think that this, as summed up in that paragraph, speaks to the fact that this proposal provides for those 5 tenets of what the Plan of Conservation and Development suggests is where we want to be, and that's a community-wide input process. With regards to Commissioner Cole's water runoff, there is a hydraulics document contained within our packet that was done by a Crasard & Jones, Mr. Bravino's organization, which is stamped by, I believe it's stamped by a licensed professional engineer, and therefore I have full faith and confidence as someone who has not only worked with licensed professional engineers in the state of Connecticut, but also knowing what I don't, or appreciating what I don't know, and not trying to opine on things that I don't know, that the water runoff issue is a non-issue as demonstrated by the water runoff report and water report that was submitted as part of this application. And with that, I would urge our members to vote in support of this motion and ask Jeremy to please call the roll.
Commissioner Coles.
No.
Commissioner Britton.
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Gaida.
Yes.
Commissioner Japlinski.
Yes.
Commissioner Walowski.
Yes.
Chair Hammersley.
Hammersley is a yes. Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to item 10C, Lovely Development, Inc., site plan application for proposed 27-unit sub-age restricted homes, property located at 347, 349, and a portion of 153 Pine Street, zoned in an ARCH zone, SPR 1884. Discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve SPR number 1884 with the same stipulation as the previous
So stipulation, I think, okay.
Applicant is to work with engineering department on any modifications needed to the drainage system after a full review of the drainage report is completed.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Britton with a second. Any discussion? I'll just say ditto to everything I said earlier and everything I said when we approved this as a zone. And as Commissioner Wolowski, I will just emphasize that as Commissioner Wolowski pointed out earlier, we have an obligation as a body who's responsible for increasing our affordable housing stock based on what the Hartford legislature has said to us. We need to take that responsibility seriously, and this does that. And with that, can we please call the roll?
Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaida?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolowski?
Yes.
Chair Hammersley?
Hammers is a yes, motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, best of luck. I'm sure you guys will do a great job. Item 10D, we're looking for a table on that.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion for a table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Guida with a motion, or a second, rather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10E, we're looking for a table on that as well.
So moved.
Commissioner Wolowski?
Second.
We have a Second, Commissioner Britton with a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10F, Wesley Cove Special Permit Application to construct a detached garage in excess of 3 spaces, property located at 131 Mount Vernon Road, zone in R 2025, SPU 704. Discussion. Or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve SPU 704.
Second.
Was that you, Caleb? We got Coles with a second, Commissioner Britton with the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can we please call the roll?
Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaida?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolowski?
No.
Chair Hammersley?
Hammersley's a yes, motion carries 6-1. Congratulations, best of luck. Item 10G, Town of Southington Special Permit Application for Contaminated Soil Cleanup and Associated Site Work Property located at 999 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike, zone in R 2025, SPU 703. Discussion. Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve SPU 703.
Second.
Is that you? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Guido with the motion, Commissioner Coles with the second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can we call the roll, please?
Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaida?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolowski?
Yes.
Chair Hammersley?
Hammers is yes, 7-0, motion carries. Item 10H, Town of Southington floodplain filling application seeking to excavate PCB impact soil within the wetlands of a 100-year floodplain and restore the excavated area with clean fill, property located at 999 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike, zone in R 2025. FF 279. You kind of talked about it already. You typically would get an opportunity to come up and talk about it again. I don't know if you want to say anything else. You all set? It's a good tactic, right? Is there any discussion from members of the commission on this? Anything you want to add, engineering? We good? Okay. Can we get a motion here?
Motion to approve FF 279.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Chaplinsky with a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we please call the roll?
Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaida?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolowski?
Yes.
Chair Hammersley?
Hammers is a yes, 7-0, motion carries. Item 10I, Town of Southington Site Plan Application for Contaminated Soil Cleanup and Associated Site Work Property located at 999 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike, zone in R 2025, SPR 1888. You guys are good again? All right. Any discussion from members of the commission on this? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve SPR 1888.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
She beat you, ladies before gentlemen. Commissioner Guida with a second. All right, we all set for a roll call? Yeah. Give us a roll.
Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaida?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolowski?
Yes.
Chair Hammersley?
I guess we'll go yes on this one, 7-0, guys. Good job. Have a great night. Thanks for coming out. 10J, thank you for all the work you do for town, by the way. F&F Concrete Corporation site plan modification application for proposed 2,400 square foot addition and to modify existing parking area. Property located at 111 Atwater Street, zoned in an I2, SPR 1715.2. Mr. Judas, you've cleared the room and the floor is yours, sir.
I've been waiting patiently
Yeah.
to see you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commission members. For the record, Stephen Judas with Cole Civil and Survey, 876 South Main Street in Plantsville. Here tonight on behalf of F&F Concrete. This is a site plan modification. We had been before this commission previously for an addition located at their Atwater property. It's a 111 Atwater Street. It's an I2 zone. The beige building is a 20,000 square foot building that was previously approved and is under construction. The shell is up, but the doors have not been constructed. They originally were proposing to use that, to lease that space out, but F&F has grown in such a manner that they now want to use that for their own uses on site. They're proposing to add this small addition to the south end of this building. As mentioned, is rather small, about 2,500 square feet. We did make some modifications along the frontage. We originally proposed an additional curb cut for the original building. Again, they've decided now that this is an internal building that will be used for internal operation. We've eliminated that curb cut. We've proposed some additional street trees along where that curb cut was originally proposed. And we're also proposing to maintain some of the vegetation that is currently along the roadway. We did also relocate our handicap and parking spaces to the north side of the building where they originally were parked out front. So some minor modifications. We did go back and forth. We addressed comments from staff. I believe that we are in pretty good shape. I saw a couple of emails come across my desk today, so I'm here to answer any questions from you that I will do my best to answer.
Okay. Any questions for members of the commission? I'll just ask staff if your comments have been addressed to your satisfaction.
Planning comments are all set, Mr. Chair.
Engineering have any comments as well?
Yeah, we had some comments, but we've received responses from Mr. Reinhardt on behalf of F&F, so we're all set.
And those are answered to your
Yes.
satisfaction?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great power comes great responsibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Steve, anything else you want to add before we move on?
That's it.
Okay, so we have an application on this. Any discussion for members of the commission? Get a motion?
Pretty straightforward. I'll make a motion to approve SPR 1715.2.
Second.
Commissioner Sewell with a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we call the roll, please?
Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaida?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Walowski?
Yes.
Chair Hammersley?
Hammersley's a yes, motion carries 7-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for your
Great job.
time
Item
tonight.
10K, release of an erosion and sedimentation bond in the amount of $9,100. Lovely Development, property located at 318 North Main Street, SPR 1797. Is it ready for action?
Yes.
So this is the Beaman Corman property, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and they've satisfied whatever that bond was being held for?
Yes,
Okay.
it's set to be released.
Okay, any questions for members of the commission? Seeing none, can we get a motion?
Make a motion to approve SPR 1797.
Second?
Second.
Commissioner Sewell, was that you? Yep. Commissioner Sewell with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10L, release of a public improvement bond in the amount of $18,000. Lovely Development, Inc., property located at 318 North Main Street, SPR 1797. Is this ready for action?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from members of the commission? Seeing none, can we get a motion here?
Make a motion to approve SPR 1797.
Second.
Commissioner Sewell, Commissioner Walowski with a motion, Commissioner Sewell with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item Item number 11, administrative items, I'll just call attention to our memo that talks about the Aroma Joe's at the State Traffic Commission. It's not the official name of it anymore. It used to be the State Traffic Commission.
OSTA these days.
Yeah, whatever that stands for,
Office
Office
of
of State Traffic
Authority.
Authority or something like that. We had stipulated on the Aroma Joe's that they have a no left-hand turn
That's
out of
correct.
that site. As I think I stated at the time, I've stated it before with other applications along state highways, that ultimately is up to CONDOT. And they said that they don't need to do that, and therefore, the project engineer has asked whether we would be amenable to removing it as a stipulation. I don't think that we need to do that. I think that the DOT overrules us with regards to that, but if we can just see if there's any objection to Jeremy working that out administratively for them. Is there any objection to that?
Can I just offer commentary, not necessarily objection?
Go for it, man.
So many years ago, when I was a newly licensed teen driver, I was making a left-hand turn a couple doors down from a business, and I was trying to go out. Traffic stopped to let me go, but the other lane didn't, and needless to say, I had an accident. So you're crossing all those lanes of traffic. I feel like it's honestly going to set us up for a whole host of traffic accidents at this location, especially if you're coming up, by, when you're coming up from Ocean State Job Lot, that sort of thing. You have two lanes that merge down into one.
All valid points, and all points, I think that if you polled the commission, you would find that we all agree with you. Not to speak for everybody, but that's why we put it in as a stipulation originally. Unfortunately, to some extent, I guess, it's up to the state on whether they want to do that, so,
We've been overruled.
yeah. Sadly, but bravo, and yes,
We're able to turn off of Queen
absolutely.
Terrace anyway, right? So
What's that?
we're able to turn left off of Queen Terrace, right? Which is right next to
I believe so. I don't think that there's no
Like a safe
right-hand
spot.
or no left-hand turn, but it doesn't matter. It's a moot point, so. Is there any objection to Jeremy working that out administratively? I don't think I saw any, so are you satisfied with that? Does that
I am. That's
that give
perfect.
you what
Thank
you
you.
want? And also, there's a note in there about another restaurant moving into where the former Chips restaurant used to be. There's not, part of that is covered by I'll call it an urgent care type of facility. But the other half of that building, they want to put a restaurant in there, and they're looking to put in a patio, I think similar to what 110 Grill has in that same plaza. Jeremy just wanted to bring that to us and make sure that we were okay with him administratively dealing with that. Or is everyone okay with that? Is there any objection to him administratively dealing with that?
What's the restaurant?
I don't know offhand. I don't have that information. We'll find out.
It could be an important piece of the puzzle.
It could be.
It's whatever your favorite restaurant is, Steve, or anyone else up here. It's their favorite restaurant. So, okay, so you're good with that?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So moving on to item number 12 on our agenda, new applications. Jeremy, you want to talk about those real quick?
Sure. There's a number of them. We have a detached garage in excess of 1092 square feet up on West Street. We have the site plan that goes along with an application for a solar array that we've had for quite a while up on Winding Ridge. It's taken a while to get some information out of that solar company simply because they've had some staffing changes. We're working through that. That'll be on your agenda for 10-1. And we did receive an Arch Z permit application for Lazy Lane from Hollis Real Estate Holdings. That's the parcel that, if you remember back a year ago from probably tomorrow or Thursday, there was an application on the agenda for a zone change from that parcel from R2025 to I2 or I1, whatever the neighboring zone is there, that was denied. And so they have come back for an Arch Z, 24 units on that lot.
So do they have to first apply to convert that over? Because the Arch Z is an overlay zone, right? It's a floating zone.
Correct. So they have to come in with we don't have it on your agenda for 10-1 because we need a zone change first. They missed that in the application process. We submitted a list of comments today, a pretty extensive one, and that was one of them.
So that would precede any
Correct.
of this? Okay.
The zone change will come to you first.
So we'll get that.
Yeah,
Go
that's,
ahead.
I was just, no, I was looking at.
I think it's a little bit cart before the horse.
It's
type
a
of
little
thing.
bit cart before the horse. We've corrected them on that.
Okay.
Cole is their project engineer. They're aware of that. I think the application came in a little bit ahead of Cole's anticipation, but
Okay.
we'll get it on the right path.
Okay,
Just hash
okay.
it out during the meeting.
Well, not really, because we have to talk about the zone first, but.
No,
I
I'm just
I
saying
know,
that's
I
not
know.
the way Kurt wants to do business.
You're always about streamlining, so. Anyways, is there anything else from the commission before we entertain a motion to adjourn? All right, give me that motion, folks.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.